pre-trip twice a day. Once in the morning, once when you're done. It can be a pre-trip on duty or a post-trip on duty. But you do one on duty and one off duty, 2 times a day.
Which one would you recommend for on-duty status?
The pre-trip.
Before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah, I do pre-trip first on duty.
Okay.
Yeah. And then when you're done, you do another walk-around pre-trip, but off duty.
Well.
All right? So now that we know about the clocks, let's talk about actually writing in our logbooks. I don't know if y'all can see my logbook. I did a fake logbook for today. On your logs, you must put the date, the miles when you're done that you drove that day, my truck number, my driver code, my trailer that I'm pulling, sign my name on the bottom line right here that makes this document true and correct. And then if you'll see, this says that this log is on the 5th of November, which is today. And here it says hours worked last 7 days. And under number 1, it says yesterday. So if this is the 5th, number 1 would be November 4th.
Right.
Now, for someone that hasn't been driving, November 4th would be 0. But I have been driving. Yesterday I drove 9 hours, the day before 9, the day before 10, the day before 8. That adds up to 36 hours. I have 34 hours left on my 70-hour clock. When you're on paper, this logbook has to be within arm's reach, okay? Usually you want to put it on the door, or you can have it on the floor next to you. But if an officer, and only DOT or state troopers or highway patrol can ask you for your logbook. It's the PDs, local police, sheriffs, they don't have a right to see your logs. Only state, police, highway patrol, DOT. Okay, if they ask you for your logs, you have to get up and go to the bunk. They can put you out of service, and it's up to them how much they can put you out.
Right.
Minimum 2 days, maximum, it's up to them.
Right.
Because this should be within reach.
Right. If you had to go get it, then there's no guarantee you getting me the right
When
one.
you're on electronics, it's right there. You just
you grab
right there. Okay. And so that's it as far as where it should be. I don't know, you have any other questions? Anything I didn't cover?
So you told me about these lines moving around. What are these little things at the bottom?
I didn't talk about my log. Okay, I made a make-believe logbook here that is today that hasn't finished, and I said it's done. So here, my first line is off duty, and I did 1 hour from 1 to 2, and I got down here. I marked it at Troy, Illinois. I went to lunch. Okay, at midnight. I'm in the sleeper berth. I woke up at 6 a.m. and I did a scroll down here, or put a line straight down into the driving, and that tells my auditor that I started driving at 6 a.m. in Springfield, Missouri, driving. And I drove till 1 o'clock when I stopped for lunch in Troy, Illinois. I started driving again.
Now, what did you put underneath that one?
Underneath this one?
Yep. So you stopped in Troy, Illinois.
And I put lunch.
Right. So for a lot of people don't realize you have to put where you are and what you're doing.
That's what I'm saying right here.
Right, but you didn't tell people what.
Okay.
I'm trying to educate the people.
When I stopped in Troy, Illinois, I went to lunch for 1 hour.
Right, and I'm just saying, like, it's required for you to also put what you stopped for.
Yeah, what I stopped for, lunch, breaks, you know. Anything over 15 minutes, you have to mark it on here. And I didn't put when I started driving because you don't need to flag when you stop and when you start unless it's at the beginning and at the end.
Right.
It's 1 hour lunch. I stopped driving at 12. I started driving at 1. So
and you're in the same location.
In the same location. Okay, and then I drove from 2 in the afternoon to 4:30 in the afternoon, and I got to Greenwood, Illinois, which I think is an imaginary city. And I put in here that I did a pre-trip inspection, and I went into the sleeper berth in Greenwood, Illinois at 4:30. After 15 minutes of inspection, I went up to sleeper berth until midnight. So that totals 1 hour of off duty, 13 hours, 15 minutes of sleeper berth, 9 hours and 30 minutes of driving, and 15 minutes of on duty, not driving for the vehicle inspection. That totals 24 hours, which is the hours in the day. Okay. Again, I reiterate, on the 14-hour clock, The 14-hour clock starts at 8 in the morning and ends at 10. But let's say, for example, you get a load that has 100 miles empty to get to your shipper.
Okay.
Okay. Let's say it took you 2 hours to do that. You get to the shipper, you put yourself off duty, you bump the dock, and you wait. We have to most of the time go on dock. You don't.
Yeah, flatbed VG, baby.
So, when I hit the dock, I went to off duty, and they don't load me for at least 4 or 5 hours. And then it takes them 2 more hours to load me, and it takes another hour to get me paperwork. So at 7.5 hours off duty, they give me my paperwork and tell me, you know, you can go. Now, if I go and I change it, and on the Qualcomm, I can change any duty status except for driving. And even personal conveyance. If you're driving, you cannot change it. Okay. You can change sleeper, you can change on duty, you can change off duty. So I go to the Qualcomm and I change my off duty to sleeper berth. And make sure that you go back and change the 7 hours that you were on off duty and make it sleeper berth. You stay in sleeper berth for another 30 minutes and that will stop your 14-hour clock.
Oh.
So you get back the 11 hours because you drove 12 hours because you drove 2 hours to get there.
Right.
Okay, so then once you hit the 8 hours in sleeper berth, then you do your 15 minutes for loading. After the 8 hours, don't do the 15 minutes before the 8 because you have to have a complete 8 hours sleeper berth. In order to stop the 14-hour clock, you have to have 8 hours sleeper berth, and you get back the remainder of your 14 hours. If you would have left at 7.5 hours with 15 minutes for loading, that would have been 7 hours and 45 minutes that you just lost on your 14 hours. And then if you waited, you get the 12 hours back. A lot of people don't know how to use this. We used to call it the split sleeper. Split sleeper when I started driving, when you could only drive 10 hours. You could drive 5 hours and take 4 in the sleeper, and you drive 5 more. Then you could do 4 in the sleeper, drive 5 more, 4 in the sleeper, 5 more. You could do that for 3 days. Ooh. And then after that, you had to do a full 8 hours. No, not 10, it was 8.
8?
Yeah.
So how do you feel about it the way it is today? Because you did bring up the 30-minute break, right? So out of the 11, I can only drive 8, and then I need a 30-minute break. How long do you suggest most people drive?
I like to do at least half of that 8 hours, at least 4 hours. If you'll notice on my book, I put 6 hours.
Right.
So, you know, you take off the big chunk first always.
Right.
I like to do no less than 200 miles before I even use the bathroom.
Ooh.
Yeah.
What do you just call this shows up, man. That's a good range though. And that's the high valve recommendation.
Like, the sooner, you know, if you stop at 100 miles, you're gonna be stopping all day.
Right.
And it's gonna stretch out. Now you're gonna drive till 10:30 at night. Run that truck, get them miles, make that money.
Right.
You know, you gotta go. But if you don't have to, if you can hold it another hour or 2. Now I'm not saying wait 200 miles before you use the bathroom.
Right.
But at least wait 200 miles
if you don't have to, there's no
before you
need
take
to.
a good 1 hour break or even 30-minute break. Because if you stop at 3 hours, you're gonna have to stop again.
Right.
You know, because you're gonna have more hours than the 8 to finish your 14 or the 11.
Right.
So if you stop too early, you're gonna have to take 2 30-minute breaks.
And then normally, like I always say with the 11, on drop off and pickup days, I wouldn't even really worry about, you know what I mean, like the time or the 30-minute break, because you're normally going to be sitting somewhere for longer than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
30 minutes to get offloaded, 30 minutes, but on a full drive day, you know what I mean, like 4 hours is a good. And what I used to do too is I would stop at, especially on the East Coast, I would stop at all the welcome centers for my sanity. You know, sometimes getting out of the truck is good for your sanity.
I can see
and most states are at least
all
180 miles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so.
Unless you go through Texas, and you could be there a couple of days.
Yeah. Texas is a long haul. So when it comes to papers and e-logs, which one do you like better? Coming from a guy that started in 99.
I used to think when they put me on electronics in 2009, I thought, man, there goes, because I've never used 2 logbooks, never.
Right.
As a matter of fact, this is a story that I'm going to tell. I shouldn't tell maybe. But I had a dispatcher that was in sales and he took over. And the second week he was there, he went to my banquet of CDL Instructor of the Year, right?
Oh.
And he got to eat for free and all that, and I met him. And then like 2 days later, he calls, he sends me a message rather than a Qualcomm. He says, hey Rick, you already unloaded, right? I said, yeah. He says, man, I got a hot shot for you. You gotta help me out. It's only 150 miles. I said, I ain't got the hours, man. I sent him back. I don't have the hours. I'm out of hours. He said, come on, man. You know how to do that. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. Why don't you show me how to do that? Well, he sent me black and white. Tear out your sheet, back it up. And I'm like, what is wrong with you, man? And I didn't even respond. And about 10 minutes later, I get a phone call from him. And he's like, you son of a bitch. I'm like, me?
You're the one.
I told you that so you would not ask me to do it.
Right.
But now it's in black and white. You're telling me to break the law. And he's like, erase that. I said, are you going to go around Prime and erase every freaking computer?
Right.
Because they all got him.
He
only lasted as dispatcher about 2 months. But he literally wanted me to cheat. And I know several people, most of them from Swift, that I know a guy that had to do another 100 miles for $200. Guy fell asleep and rear-ended a school bus, killed 3 kids. Got 3 life sentences for $200, man. And you could give me $2,000 and I wouldn't do it.
No.
I wouldn't do it.
I was never smart enough to run too. When I was on paper, I couldn't figure it out.
If you can't do it safe and legally, don't do it.
Right.
Not worth it, man. Like they say, there's no load so hot it won't cool down in the ditch.
Miss Don Lacy.
Yeah, man. So
that was the first time I heard it was from Don Lacy. I don't know if it's been an industry thing.
No,
but
it is. It's everywhere. No load too hot that it won't cool down in the ditch.
So if you had to pick paper or e-logs.
Oh, I never finished my story.
Finish the story.
In 2009, I did a student. I quit being a PS or TNT in 07, because I had 2 trainees that cost me over $6,000. But I don't want to talk about that. And but I had this guy Randy, really nice guy, and he asked me, "Come on, man, be my TNT." And I said, what the hell? So I did it, and when I went TNT, I had to go electronic. I had to get rid of my paper. We hadn't transferred everybody over electronic.
Right.
And I thought, man, this sucks. But you know what? When I was on paper, I would run out of hours about every 2 or 3 months. I went electronic, I didn't run out of hours for 3 years. Yeah, because they know where you're at.
Right.
When you're on paper, they just say, can you do this? Yeah, I can do this.
Right.
I'll make it work. I'll make it work.
But I can find a way.
Yeah. But on electronic, I never ran out until one day they gave me too much and I went too long and I ran out of hours. I had to get repowered. I've only been repowered 3 times in my career.
Wow.
Because I couldn't finish it.
That's crazy. That's a good track record for people that understand.
I do my best, man. It's like I tell my students, I'm going to make you the best, safest driver you can be. And I had one guy ask me, he said, how are you going to make me a safe driver? I'm going to teach you the right way to do it. Now, if you can't do it, you're going home. If you can't follow my instructions or my directions, if I tell you to make it white and you can't make it white, I'm only going to let you F it up so many times and you're out of here.
Right.
I mean, I know you can't get it the first time, second, or maybe even the 3rd time. But eventually you should realize that wide means wide.
We should be getting closer every time you do it.
Yeah, but not shorter and shorter,
right.
And I tell them, I'll make you the safe, best driver you can be. And I tell them, I want you to be better than me. I'm a member of the 2 Million Mile Club. I want my students to do the same thing,
That's a lot of miles.
It is. I should hit 3 million next June or July.
Ooh.
Yeah, and the good part is I'm not even driving anymore. But with Prime, the way it is with Prime is you're an active driver for 7 years, you get the million.
Right.
It's the same thing. I still do miles, not as much as I used to, because when I was solo, I would average 4,300 miles a week. Of course, I ran like my truck was on fire.
Right.
I was a speed demon. We don't want to talk about that.
That was pre-prime cutting trucks and.
Oh man, when I joined Prime in 2001, we were the most unsafe company on the road. We had the fastest truck. If you see a Prime coming, you get the hell out of the way.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they used to say when I started in 2010, but everybody told me previously, because I came in the era of the e-logs. So, you know what I mean? Like, everybody was quitting. I started getting real worried. Like, why is everybody leaving? But then I found out it was all e-logs.
E-logs now, man.
Yeah, I do too, man. Don't have to remember where you are.
No,
you don't have to get on the CV.
It's easy.
Right.
I might forget to put myself on off duty or sleeper, but in the morning I can fix it.
Right.
And on paper, it's like, you know, wow.
But they used to say Prime was a triple-digit company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
when I started in 2001, every single weight station I would get pulled in. It wasn't a single one gave me a pre-pass. I'm like, why I got this thing? Why am I paying for it?
Right. If I'm getting pulled into every one.
And then I found out our safety record. We had 13 fatalities in 2001. That's 12 too many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 13 too many.
Yeah.
If you can prevent any of them.
That's true.
And that's where the log does come into play. Just because you have hours doesn't mean that you're physically up to doing it. Because that's the hard part. I will admit I was a reefer driver for a little while. You know what I mean? Then I saw the light and came over to flatbed. You know what I mean? Like, but you know what I mean? Like, it's hard to sleep. You know what I mean? Like, do you have no set schedule over in reefer? You know what I mean? Like, it's when you bump that dock, man. Like, when you're in docks, it's nap time. You know what I mean? Like, you better learn to sleep.
Yeah,
and,
that's what I tell all my students. If you can lay down, take a nap, do it.
Right. Always try to be resting because you never know. Like you said, I pick up this load at 8 a.m. It delivers 8 a.m. the next morning. So then I start my day, I pick up this load that might deliver 2 o'clock in the morning 2 days from now. You know what I mean? Like, and you got to find a way to set that schedule. So that's where I love flatbed is we have dailies. You know what I mean? Like, our deliveries are during the day.
Yeah.
But you guys
and you don't deliver on the weekend.
Right. You guys have it a little rougher with having to bump docks. And, you know what I mean? Like, at any given time of day, because Walmart takes in certain things at certain times. So beef comes in at one time, poultry comes in at another. So just because you went to that Walmart at this time. And so learning how to manipulate your clock and work with it. And I would say, too, I enjoy...
Ooh, there goes my title.
I enjoy these much better. E-logs.
I agree.
You know what I mean? Like, they are much better. You know what I mean? Like, because when I first, same with the automatic, when I first got it, it was the old dog new trick. And it was, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want this automatic thing. Like, brr. Now, man, like, the only reason I don't like automatics is for the backing. Like, I don't like the control. I like the feather of the clutch way better than I enjoy that. But I'll tell you what, man, I don't miss uphills.
I have to agree with you there, but when I get under a trailer, I cuss my transmission every friggin' time.
Oh, creep mode is dangerous. I am not.
Or you step on the accelerator and it's not doing nothing, so my students push it all the way down. And it's
like, good God. But is there anything else you can tell us about logbooks that you think of? I think we covered most everything we covered. You got to have the date, the time.
Maybe after I leave, I'll remember something. But right now,
we can always do part 2.
One thing I got to tell you, you cannot use whiteout on paper.
Really?
That's an inside joke, people.
Is that true?
But you cannot use whiteout on a paper log.
And even for e-logs, how you signed it down here, when you hit agree, if you're using the e-logs and you hit agree to the day, that's the same thing. You're signing off that this is what I did that day.
Yeah.
And so, with anything else you can think of, I can't think of anything. I think we went through the 8-day clock. You know what I mean? Like being able to get recaps.
I think we did pretty good for not being actual log people.
Yeah, because we hit that lazy mode. Haven't seen paper in so long, man.
Just to be honest with you guys, this is my 3rd log that I had to fill out.
This is the 3rd fake log you had to make.
Okay, there's a little bit of whiteout.
We might have talked about
but you cannot use whiteout on paper.
Right.
It's illegal.
What do you think of the people that might have been running 2 logbooks back in the days? 2, 3 log. Because for me, everybody, the old timers love to tell. I remember when I ran. The only thing I tell them is thank you, and they're like, for what? And I said for e-logs. You act like the DOT didn't know, man. They knew, they just couldn't prove it.
Yeah.
So they've tried to find a way.
I had uncles that were truck drivers back in the 60s and 70s, and they said their co-driver was right here, you know, in their pocket.
Right.
That I just don't believe in outlaw truckers, and that's what they are. They're outlaws. If you need 2 dogs, you're doing something wrong, or you are illegal, and you shouldn't be behind that wheel.
No.
You're a danger. You're a menace.
And even if you feel like you could drive, you know what I mean? Like, hey, I'm awake, you're alert, you're all that other good stuff. You're ruining the rates as well. You know what I mean? Like, that's why rates don't move, I feel, because they don't, you know what I mean? Like, because you've been able to do this, right? Like, the shipper made you late, but you're like, I'll still get it done. So you've never forced the shipper because you've always put the Band-Aid over their mistakes.
Well, here's the thing. Your body tells you when you're tired and fatigued, but it doesn't tell you when you're going to fall asleep.
Right.
You know, if you blink your eyes and they stay closed too long, you got to find a parking spot.
Right.
Rolling down the window, slapping yourself in the face.
That only works so
They
many
good
times.
for 2 or 3 minutes.
Right.
If you feel fatigue, it's time to park, not to buy a 5-hour energy. 5-hour energy, to me, it doesn't work. I tried it once about 15 years ago. All I got was a massive headache, and it didn't keep me awake.
At some point, your body is just done,
Yeah.
and then it's safe. It's just
If you feel fatigue, if you feel tired, there's only one remedy.
right. Especially here. You know what I mean? Like at Prime, that's where I think Prime thrives in an area where others may not. Is that we truly do take that as a consideration. You know what I mean? Like that. If you're on, hey, we got other drivers, we can repower it. They'd rather work with you because we really feel
they
like
encourage that. If you're going to be late, give me a warning. But don't give me a 2 to 6 hour warning.
Right.
Tell me the day before, 24 hours. Give me time to look for a repower.
Right.
I've never had problems with it 2 times. I had to do it, you know, because I give them plenty of time.
Or give me a heads up so I can change enough time to change your appointment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
A lot of receivers, they're stuck on that. You know, they say it's 12 o'clock, it's 12 o'clock.
Right.
But there's a lot of them that are flexible, you know.
Right.
But you got to give them enough time.
Yeah, give them a heads up and all that other good stuff. So I think we're good to sum this up there, buddy.
I think so.
Senior Rick. So this has been E-Log Log class, and Papa said we're done anyway. But it was good to see y'all. Check in with us again. We'll do something else with Senior Rick, the almost 3 million miler guy. Deuces.